Imagine finding out the American tech sector, the absolute undisputed crown jewel of the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
Imagine it's suddenly being undercut by a foreign competitor offering the exact same capability for 3 cents.
Yeah, and not $3, like literally 3 pennies.
Exactly, 3 pennies. So today we're looking at a frankly chaotic news cycle where an aggressive new AI price war is violently colliding with global geopolitics.
And shifting corporate accountability, too. Plus some pretty profound breakthroughs in human biology.
It's a lot. Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to take a massive stack of reports from the Daily Tech Reader for Monday, August 3, 2026.
We want to reveal the hidden connections driving everything from, your investment portfolio to your own immune system.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this.
So, the best place to start pulling this thread is probably the Strait of Hormuz. Because what happens in that narrow strip of water essentially dictates the baseline cost of running the global economy.
Oh, for sure. And former President Trump definitely made waves today by declaring that a deal regarding the Strait and Iran is imminent.
Yeah, he actually framed it as Iran's last chance, noting that talks resumed Monday afternoon.
But if we look at the actual facts on the ground, Tehran did confirm there's an indirect channel being mediated by Oman.
Right, but they explicitly denied any direct contact with the U.S.
Yeah, they were very firm on that.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, they're insisting the Strait of Hormuz is not returning to its pre-war status.
Which is huge. Their foreign ministry spokesman noted a new maritime corridor is in its final stages of negotiation.
And this corridor avoids both the traditional northern and southern routes.
Exactly. Which sent an immediate shockwave through the global energy markets. We saw Brent crude oil drop down to $84 a barrel.
Wow. And WTI crude fell near $81.
Yeah. Even gold, the ultimate safe haven asset, it softened from its opening highs. What we're seeing here is the market pricing out a massive risk premium tax.
Okay, a risk premium tax. How does that actually work in this context?
Well, when you have a prolonged threat to global shipping lanes, every corporation factors that worst-case scenario into their supply chains.
So it's like a built-in anxiety fee.
Exactly. The mere whisper of a mediated deal acts like an instantaneous tax cut on that global anxiety.
But what's fascinating is how differently the global markets process that anxiety today. Like Asian markets woke up with a brutal war fear hangover.
Oh, absolutely brutal. South Korea's Kospi index opened down 4.6%.
And Japan's Nikkei dropped over 1% before steadying. They were essentially trading on yesterday's fear.
Right, but by the time the opening bell rang in New York, the U.S. markets had already digested the Oman mediation news.
And it was a totally different story.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really comes down to the psychology of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Easing those oil supply fears removed a major blind spot for investors.
Because when you remove uncertainty, you free up risk appetite, right?
Precisely. That relief directly fueled the U.S. tech rally we saw today. The Nasdaq closed up 2.21%.
And the S&P 500 climbed 1.55%. Plus, the VIX, which is the market's primary volatility and fear gauge, right?
Yeah, the fear gauge.
It eased all the way down to 15.81. Investors weren't just breathing a sigh of release. They were aggressively deploying capital back into technology.
Which is wild because that renewed appetite for U.S. tech is colliding head-on with a terrifyingly fast two-front AI Cold War.
Yeah, this isn't just about who has the smartest chatbot anymore.
Yeah.
China is pushing an aggressive dual-threat strategy.
Capability and price.
Right. Let's look at capability first. Alibaba just dropped Qwen 3.8 Max.
And this thing is massive. It's a 2.4 trillion parameter model that basically matches leading global models on all the major benchmarks.
And they're releasing the open weights next week. Like, anyone can just have it. Alibaba's Hong Kong shares jumped 6% just on the news.
Giving away the architecture of a 2.4 trillion parameter model for free, it's a very calculated, aggressive move.
It's essentially the equivalent of a rival car company giving away the exact blueprints to a Ferrari.
That's a great way to put it. They aren't trying to sell you the car, they're trying to bankrupt the local mechanic.
Wow, yeah.
They want to make the underlying technology so ubiquitous and free that competing proprietary models suddenly look absurdly overpriced.
Which brings us to the price front. And this is where that 3-cent figure from the top of the show comes in.
Right, DeepSeek's new launch.
Yeah, DeepSeek just launched their new V4 Flash model, and the benchmarks are showing it costs roughly 3 cents per test.
It's almost hard to comprehend.
So if DeepSeek is undercutting frontier U.S. models, like, say, Anthropic's Fable 5, by more than 100 times on cost, How does the American tech sector even compete with that? Are they just taking a massive loss to win market share?
Well, they're definitely squeezing margins, yeah. But what's fascinating here is that it's fundamentally about a shift in architecture.
Okay, how so?
DeepSeek is aggressively utilizing what's called a mixture of experts, or MOE architecture.
Right.
And they're combining it with severe model distillation.
Mixture of experts. Okay, break that down for us.
Think of it like this. Instead of lighting up the entire 2 trillion parameter brain every single time you ask it a question, the system acts like a hyper-efficient switchboard.
Oh, I see. So it only activates what it actually needs.
Exactly. It only activates the specific tiny neural pathways needed for your specific prompt. That slashes the computing power required to generate an answer, which obviously slashes the cost.
And that ultra-low cost is creating a massive catch-22 for American companies right now.
It really is.
Just today, the House Select Committee on China and the Homeland Security Committee slapped DoorDash with a subpoena.
Yeah, and the reason why is so telling.
Right, because their co-founder, Andy Fang, publicly mentioned he was delegating back-end tasks to a Chinese model.
Moonshot AI's Kimi K2.6.
Exactly.
And, that's the real irony here. DoorDash isn't doing this to be malicious. Andy Fang was doing exactly what literally any cost-conscious executive would do.
Finding the most efficient tool for the job.
Right. But in this geopolitical climate, plugging foreign AI infrastructure into your corporate backend, that triggers massive national security alarms.
And this DoorDash subpoena, it actually expands a probe that is already targeting the short-term rental giant Airbnb and that popular coding tool, Cursor.
Yeah, you're caught in a trap. You either bleed money using expensive domestic AI, or you save a fortune using foreign AI and get hauled in front of a congressional committee.
The major U.S. tech giants absolutely know this, and they're basically scrambling to build walled gardens.
Microsoft made a huge countermove today regarding that.
Yeah, they previewed MAI Real-Time, which is hidden right inside their MAI playground. It's a full duplex, bi-directional voice model.
Which basically means it can listen to you and speak to you at the exact same time.
Right, interrupting naturally without those super awkward, laggy pauses we're used to.
Yeah, it features voices named Victoria and Grant. It operates across 17 languages, and it natively uses external digital tools.
So why is Microsoft pushing this so hard right now?
What's driving Microsoft here is the urgent need to own their complete tech stack. They are desperately trying to replace their remaining dependency on OpenAI's voice technology.
So they want everything under their own roof.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to survive a market where competitors are handing out Ferrari blueprints, you have to control every single piece of your infrastructure, from the silicon chips in the data center to the actual voice speaking to the consumer.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because building that proprietary tech stack requires an unimaginable amount of capital.
Just mountains of cash.
And that velocity of money is showing up everywhere this week, both at the corporate ledgers and right in the crosshairs of federal regulators.
Well, S&P 500 Q2 profits are currently tracking at a staggering 47% year-over-year growth.
Which is massive. And 85% of companies that have reported so far are beating Wall Street estimates.
The corporate earnings lineup this week is basically a heavyweight fight. You have AMD and Palantir on Tuesday.
Disney and Costco on Wednesday, right?
Yep, with the market widely expecting Disney to finally confirm the sale of the Hearst A+E networks just to free up cash.
And then the pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly on Thursday.
But the real gravity well this week is Tuesday after the bell, SpaceX's first ever public earnings report.
Right. Everyone's watching that. Wall Street expects $6.82 billion in Q2 revenue from SpaceX.
But their stock is down 45% from its peak back in June during the IPO.
Yeah, everyone wants to see the Starlink subscriber growth.
Yeah.
But the real hidden metric is how much capital expenditure they're pouring into their own AI initiatives.
It really highlights this incredible divide in how capital is flowing right now. You have these massive, recently public beasts like SpaceX dealing with intense quarterly scrutiny.
Right.
And simultaneously, you have new vehicles trying to capture wealth creation much earlier in the cycle, like Robinhood just opened their Ventures Fund 2, or RVI, as a $200 million IPO on the NYSE.
Yeah, offering shares at $25. It gives everyday retail investors access to 80 private Y Combinator-affiliated startups.
Which is a huge shift.
It is. You no longer have to be some Silicon Valley insider with millions in liquid capital to get a piece of early-stage private equity.
But all of this massive capital generation, whether it's flowing into tech stocks, SpaceX rockets, or retail startup funds, It doesn't exist in a vacuum.
No, it definitely
It
doesn't.
operates within a regulatory framework that is suddenly and quite aggressively pulling the emergency brake.
We're seeing a sweeping movement across the country where institutions are just preemptively de-risking their operations.
Yeah, it's basically the end of the era of cheap grace for corporations.
Looking at the broad sweep of regulatory actions today, it's hitting every corner of the map. Just reporting impartially on the facts here, NPR noted that Capital One is closing the Trump Organization's accounts,
Right, specifically citing money laundering concerns.
which happens right as Trump is publicly pushing for Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche to stay in place to oversee a payout fund.
And then, looking at state-level executive power, Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger just signed an order to immediately restore voting rights to over 66,000 people with past felony convictions.
Executing one of the largest civic restorations in the state's history.
Exactly.
And at the exact same time, on the federal broadcast level, the FCC chairman escalated scrutiny on major television networks.
Specifically pointing to ABC, right?
Yeah, to forcefully reaffirm their legal obligation to operate in the quote-unquote public interest.
So you have massive financial institutions, state governors, and federal commissions all flexing their authority simultaneously.
Nobody wants to be the institution caught looking the other way when the music finally stops.
The optimization of the corporate machine and the strict enforcement of the law, they are both running at maximum speed.
Speaking of optimization, I want to transition from hacking a corporate machine to hacking the biological one.
Oh, this stuff is wild.
It really is. The medical research dropping today is fascinating. The FDA advisory panel just voted to formally greenlight several highly popular synthetic peptides.
So for anyone outside the fitness and wellness communities, peptides are essentially just short chains of amino acids.
Okay, simple enough.
Think of them as tiny, highly targeted messengers that tell your cells to perform specific functions, like producing growth hormone or reducing inflammation.
But for years, they've operated in this murky regulatory gray area, right?
Yeah, people were buying them from compounding pharmacies or sketchy sites online, just basically hoping for the best. This FDA vote is the first major regulatory validation of these targeted biological tools.
Wait, hold on, though. Every single year, there's a new miracle wellness trend.
That's true.
Last year was cold plunges. Before that, it was acai bowls. Before that, it was whatever expensive kale smoothie was trending on social media. Are these synthetic peptides actually doing something fundamentally different, or is this just the FDA signing off on the next highly marketed fitness fad?
This raises an important question, but looking at the scientific literature published today, I'd argue it actually is fundamentally different.
Really? How so?
We are no longer just broadly throwing nutrients at the body. We are isolating the exact chemical keys that turn specific biological locks.
Give me an example.
Take the new research published today on the EPS8 protein.
Oh, right. Scientists are calling this the molecular switch for aging.
And for very good reason. Researchers found that as we age, this specific protein EPS8 starts to build up in the brain.
Okay.
But it doesn't just sit there inertly. It actively triggers toxic signaling pathways in the brain that are highly associated with neurodegenerative risks, things like ALS and Huntington's disease.
And they map this entirely in worm models, right?
Exactly. By isolating EPS8, scientists aren't just saying, hey, eat healthier to protect your brain. They have a tangible molecular target.
So if you can engineer a way to clear out that specific EPS8 buildup,
You could theoretically pause that neurodegeneration entirely.
wow. It's literally treating flesh and blood like lines of code you can just debug.
Yeah, and we're seeing this precision approach applied to diet too. Today's sources highlight a fascinating mouse study centered entirely around arginine, the amino acid.
I read this. This study completely changes the mechanism of how we view dietary intervention.
It really does. Researchers mapped out the immune system's alarm network. They found that when arginine levels are depleted in the body, it actually reduces the production of a critical immune system warning protein.
So without enough arginine in your system, your body's biological alarm system is essentially on mute.
Right. And when the alarm is muted, cancer cells and viral infections can slip right past your T cells completely undetected.
That is terrifying.
But when researchers fed these mice an arginine-rich diet, the alarm bells stayed loud. The mice developed significantly fewer colon tumors and showed much milder viral infections.
It just proves that diet isn't just about, caloric deficit or having enough energy to get through the day.
Not anymore. Diet is becoming a targeted, tactical medical defense. You ingest specific compounds to keep your biological security systems online.
So what does this all mean? We've covered global oil pressures in the Middle East, a cutthroat AI price war dropping costs to pennies, immense corporate capital colliding with strict regulations, and the literal molecular manipulation of human aging.
It is a heavy, very intense news cycle.
It is. And looking at the cultural data today, consumers are aggressively seeking out escapism to cope with it.
Oh, yeah. The weekend box office numbers certainly reflect a public desperate for a distraction.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Brand New Day held incredibly strong in its second weekend, right?
Yeah, topping $500 million domestically.
Which keeps the film industry fully on track for a $4 billion summer and a record-breaking $10 billion annual box office for 2026.
Oh, and don't forget Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
Oh, right. It just crossed $1 billion globally in its fourth week, officially making it his highest-grossing film ever.
People are clearly more than willing to pay top dollar to sit in a dark room and just forget the real world for 3 hours.
And if they aren't escaping into movie theaters, they're pouring all their emotional energy into sports.
The 6 p.m. Eastern MLB trade deadline today was an absolute frenzy.
Complete madness. The Red Sox landed all-star catcher Adley Rutschman from the Orioles. The Cubs acquired starting pitcher Kevin Gausman. The Phillies got Luis Arias.
It was nonstop.
The Blue Jays picked up Jose Soriano, and the Yankees snagged Luis Garcia Jr. Plus, the Astros are quietly sitting on a 6-game win streak right now.
The sheer volume of those blockbuster trades tells you everything you need to know about the new economics of baseball.
Yeah, with the expanded wildcard spots, front offices realize that getting into the playoffs is basically buying a lottery ticket.
Exactly. If you get in, you have a chance. So teams are far more willing to leverage their future prospects to win right now, creating this massive arms race on the diamond.
And for the football fans seeking an early distraction, the Dallas Cowboys officially opened training camp today, getting ready for the September 10th kickoff.
But, eventually you have to walk out of the movie theater or turn off the baseball game.
Right. And when you do, the reality of the weather today is hitting people like a physical brick wall.
Honestly, maybe the massive box office numbers are partly because a movie theater is the only place with functioning air conditioning right now.
That's entirely possible. The persistent southwest heat wave is punishing.
Phoenix and Las Vegas are forecast to hover near 114 degrees Fahrenheit today, and they aren't expecting any relief below 110 until Wednesday at the earliest.
Meanwhile, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is staring down triple-digit heat indices between 100 and 108 degrees through midweek, under this high-pressure dry pattern.
Over the weekend, record highs fell across the Rockies and Colorado, too.
But on the East Coast, it's the exact opposite problem. Heavy thunderstorms are driving severe flash flood risks across southern New England and the Mid-Atlantic.
The environmental extremes are just getting more and more extreme, which brings us all the way back to where we started. Everything is deeply intertwined.
It really is. We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We started with diplomatic whispers in the Strait of Hormuz dictating the price of global oil,
which acted as a catalyst to rally the U.S. tech market.
Right. We watched China and the U.S. battle over AI architectures, driving the price of intelligence down to 3 pennies while triggering congressional subpoenas.
We saw how billions of dollars flowing through SpaceX and Robinhood are colliding with preemptive regulatory crackdowns.
All while medical researchers are literally trying to map the molecular switches that control human aging and immunity.
And, the reason we do these deep dives is to remind you that these isolated headlines are actually moving pieces on a single board.
They really are.
Whether you are rebalancing your investment portfolio ahead of Tuesday's massive SpaceX earnings, or trying to figure out which AI tools you can safely use at work, or just trying to keep your family cool in a 114-degree heat wave, this macro-level news directly impacts the micro-level decisions you have to make every single day.
It absolutely does. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over regarding that AI price war we talked about.
Oh, yeah?
We saw the U.S. Congress subpoena DoorDash today simply for using a cheaper Chinese AI model on their back end to save money.
Right.
But with hyper-capable 2.4 trillion parameter models like Alibaba's Qwen 3.8 Max, dropping their open source weights to the public for free next week.
Yeah.
How long until almost every local small business, mid-sized startup, and city agency in America is unknowingly running their entire operation on foreign AI architecture simply because they cannot afford the domestic alternatives?
That's a huge question.
What happens to a nation's security when the most powerful tools in the world are free, but they are built by a rival? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.